Hi and welcome back to part 2 of The Art of Consent, the saddling process. So in part 1 we went through getting the saddle on Bella with consent and collaboration, and in this video, the second half, you're going to see the mounting process, but this I'm going to call everything but getting on. So it begins here by me weighting the stirrup. So you can't actually see it in this angle, but I am just holding the stirrup down and giving it a little bit of pressure. And you can see her head bobbing up and down as she's acknowledging that pressure physically and trying her hardest to keep herself within a comfort zone that she is comfortable with. And when I do see that she is engaged with the environment, I reward her by releasing the pressure. So right now what I'm doing is just tying the lead rope off to make some reins through the head collar. And as I said at the beginning, I promised her I wasn't going to get on, and I'm not, as you will see, but I want her to have the experience, as many parts of the experience as if I would be. So here I'm just making some reins so that they can sit over her neck through the halter. So after securing the reins, I'm going to switch my cap for my hat. Safety first, always. And in a subsequent video, I will actually show you how I tie off the lead rope to create reins and a short lead at the same time. So I start off by handling the saddle, holding the horn, holding the cantle, holding the stirrup, putting some pressure on the stirrup and watching for any changes, watching for any arousal, anxiety and also relaxation. And there you go, the head drops down. Just give her a little massage on the withers as a reward for that acknowledgement. This is not something to be rushed. True consent comes through consideration and comprehension. That takes time. If you know something is going to take you 20 minutes, don't start if you only have 10. Best you have 30 minutes. So I've raised my leg, simulating getting on, just again to see what sort of reaction that she's giving me. There's a lot of resetting, shaking, head bobbing. Right now I've got my knee in the stirrup so that I can add a little pressure and keep my hands towards the saddle also. All simulating the process of getting on. Now ideally, we also want her to be okay with the step, the mounting step. I think you should be able to get on your horse without it and get off, absolutely, particularly if you do a lot of trail riding. But as a general rule, I think you should get into a habit of using one. The leverage and the stress on the withers when we get on off the ground, particularly if we're not flexible or light or bouncy, we need to be smooth with all the processes that we have. And a mounting step helps with that. Now here you see, as soon as I got onto the step, she took a step back. She moved herself to a position where she knows I can't get on. That's all okay. That's all okay. I'm not going to stop her. I'm not going to mentally, emotionally, or physically bind her to a position. So just to get some idea of how she is feeling, I moved myself to the centre of the round pen and stood on the mounting block. Now, if she'd have come over to me, how wonderful would that have been? She didn't. That's also okay. Baby steps. But it gives me an indication on how she's feeling and how connected she is and how much support she needs. Quite a lot of these conversations that we have with our horses when they are struggling, we have to explore and experiment a little bit. And we shouldn't be afraid of that. We should try not to do too much of lots of different things. We don't want to be confusing them. We need to make sure that if we do choose a different way, like I did here, went to the middle and stood on the step, to allow it to play out so that I know that isn't going to work. So she moved away from it. So that told me, okay, I could stand there all day and she probably wouldn't come up. What would not have been ideal if I'd have got up on that step, given her 30 seconds, nothing happened, got off, moved it, got back on, 10 seconds, got off, moved it. You get where I'm going, right? That's just going to be confusing, and she's going to not come over because she's not going to know where I'm going to be. So if you are going to explore and experiment, no problem whatsoever, but just make sure that you build enough time within each of those conversations that you understand where it's going to end. And for me, that conversation ended when she walked away from me. She was telling me, you can stand there all day if you like. So again, readjusting. The first time I got on the step, she removed herself. This time she just took half or one step back, so that's progress. So I'm adjusting my goals constantly. So now I would really be happy if I could get onto that step and she doesn't move, and she finds she gives me the consent and finds peace just standing there with me on that step. And that was beautiful. Head shaking, resetting, dropping her head a little bit. I'm very methodical with my movements. I'm not being erratic or quick. But likewise, I'm not being so delicate that she fears what might come next. Beautiful. You can see that she's trying really hard to find the peace with me stood there. So although you can't see from this angle, I've just lifted my leg and let it rest on my thigh, and as she dropped her head, I get off the step and give her space. And there we have some engagement also, which is lovely. So she shifted a little bit there, but I think that was more about shifting her weight rather than actually putting herself in an emotional flight, because she's also having a lot of activity in her head, dropping it and looking for that release of tension. Beautiful. So here I have my foot up, and I've actually got my foot in the stirrup. And you can't hear me, unfortunately, due to the lack of sound, but I'm telling her that I promised her I wasn't going to get on. And there's a head bob, and I get off. And that for me is the end of this session with her. She consented to the saddle, and she consented for me to stand on the step, put my foot in the stirrup, and she was still able within that conversation to seek self-regulation and seek relaxation. So to push it any further than that would be really unfair to her. If you ever have any doubt, if you ever doubt that, oh, maybe I could have just, you're better not to. And leave it till tomorrow.